Welcome to the Mission 68 broadcast where we serve justice, love mercy.
And walk humbly.
That's right. I'm Brady Labe and I'm joined today by my co host Jackson Parnell. Say hi, Jackson.
Hello, everybody.
How's everyone doing today? It's currently October 23rd. That is a Wednesday. I hope everybody who is tuning in is having a good day so far or had a good day. We're going to do what we normally do on the show, which is starting off with our Micah 68 mission news, and then we're going to move on a little bit later into some environmental news. And today we are actually going to finish off the broadcast with a little bit of an information section. We're going to be doing a little bit of info from NASA, actually, is where we got the information from on methane, since methane is the second most powerful greenhouse gas, and it's also the main component in LNG, which is a lot of the industry located in our area. So we're going to go ahead and jump in to it today, starting with our Micah 6.8 news. So some upcoming events on November 3rd. That's a Sunday, November 3rd. There's going to be a community giveaway, like the grocery giveaways that we normally do. Go ahead and show up, be there. I'm pretty sure it's going to be groceries. I think we change it up every time, the types of groceries, but that's going to be Sunday, November 3rd. It's going to be starting at 2 p.m. and then ending at 4 p.m. I would, however, recommend showing up at 2 p.m. if you want what we're giving out. We did run out last time. There was a lot larger of a turnout than we expected. I think we're upping the numbers, though. But
Yeah, we're shooting for at least, I think it was 20 more bags.
yeah, we're going to try to get more bags so we can make sure that everybody has some. But regardless, I wouldn't show up at 4 unless you absolutely can't make it for any other reason. And then that same week, which is a Thursday, November 7th, I'm going to repeat that, Thursday, November 7th, there's going to be a Community Voices meeting at the Calcasieu Parish Public Library. That's on Cypress Street. And it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And on our real-time U.S. EPA particulate matter reader, our PM 2.5, we're currently at a 26, which is anywhere between 0 and 50. The air quality is considered satisfactory, and air pollution poses little to no risk. So that is good news. All right, I don't think we have any other Micah news, so we're going to go ahead and move forward into the first story of today. This is from Rita LeBlue, a publisher at the American Press. The Southwest Louisiana is sending hurricane relief supplies through an event called Pack the Plane. So essentially, there are people from Calcasieu and Cameron Parish, as we have gone through our tragedies and hardships with Hurricane Laura and Delta, and we had received aid from our fellow states. We have some empathy there, and the recent Hurricane Helene that has caused catastrophic damage. We have, and some local people from Cameron and Calcasieu Parish have sent over aid through goods via planes, trains, and automobiles. The Southland Field Airport manager, his name's Tim LaFleur. He coordinated the event, and the event is referred to as Pack the Plane. And a few organizations that helped and are involved with it were Friendships, which is an international volunteer relief organization, the Golden Nugget Casino, and then the Sewell family or couple. I think they're married, Pat and Liz Sewell, and they are the ones who actually own the airplane that was shipped or flew to North Carolina. The plane was packed with jackets, blankets, and pillows, and then separately there were cash donations. They didn't load up the cash donations on the plane and fly it over there. At least I don't think so. It was a little bit of a shorter story, but it's one that I wanted to highlight specifically because one of the core values of Micah 6.8 mission, and as in most places, is a community and a sense of community, and that regardless of our partisanship, of our individual beliefs, or anything that may divide us, we still suffer from the same tragedies and catastrophes that plague multiple areas of all around the world due to climate change. So having this sort of reach out and empathy, I think, is a very nice little segment to highlight here. as it's very hopeful, and it's heartwarming to see people work together like this and to provide aid for people who are suffering in the same way that we have suffered before in the past. So it was definitely a fun story to highlight.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
like, I mean, sorry,
No, you're good.
is like you were saying, it really does outline the fact that first and foremost, humans, we are like a community based. Like we thrive more when we cooperate. It's just it's really nice to see how things like this can get solved just by simply helping one another.
Yeah, I like that specifically because I do like that kind of theme where we help each other. Go figure.
Yeah.
It's actually nice to help everyone, guys, to help each other. It's actually really cool. All right. Um, but moving on to more of some legal stuff. The EPA lawsuits. There have been some EPA lawsuits that have been going through, a few of them actually, and they were taken by SCOTUS. So essentially, what's happening is some of the opponents that are taking the EPA to court are claiming that the EPA is overstepping regulatory power by bundling separate regional determinations into one national determination. Um, so that would be handled in the DC circuit. So the EPA is trying to make uh, in the very nature of what they're trying to do, they're trying to make a standardized way to have environmental regulations across the United States. And there are some districts where that is not necessarily cutting it. Um, let's see here. Some of the problems being that the EPA is trying to get it to be appealed in courts where it is more favorable to them, of course. And that would be, I believe, that is the DC circuits, right, Jackson?
Yeah, the well, they're more so bringing it to the DC circuit because under the Clean Air Act, it was determined that any sort of national reaching regulations that the agency wanted to create would be handled specifically in the DC court instead of any other regional circuits.
And the DC court would is more liberal, is a majority
Yeah, it's
liberal.
just yeah, that the court cases that take place there instead of other circuits tend to be more favorable to the EPA because the judge pool is far more liberal leaning than conservative, unlike some of the regional circuits. They have far more conservative leaning.
Yeah, like an example of that one being the some of the circuits, like the Fifth Circuit, that's Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi, where they have mostly conservative judges, where the lawsuits that were taking to the districts there are not likely to rule in the EPA's favor because, of course, the conservative well, typically the conservative interests reflected there are in favor of the LNG industries. So they would,
It's not even just the LNG industry. It's pretty much any like corporate scale industry has more luck in the Fifth Circuit than other circuits.
yeah, so they would naturally rule against
Yeah.
heavy regulations against certain corporations that the EPA would put on. Um, let's see, what else do we have here? Um, I'm trying to make sure we hit everything.
Uh,
Let's see. EPA argued to SCOTUS that not bringing it to DC Circuit undermines the Clean Air Act goals of uniformity, national standards, and regulations, and SCOTUS agreed because other circuits had ruled differently on similar cases. Alrighty. Alright, yeah, so essentially there are a few rules that certain areas do not like. They don't like the EPA's regulations on them, so they take the EPA to court, essentially to make it to where they don't have to do those certain regulations. But by doing that, they are undermining essentially what the EPA is just trying to stand for, which is to create a uniform regulation across the United States. And so the EPA is fighting it back, and they specifically get a lot of pushback from conservative states because of the industries there, because the EPA is almost by nature, I mean, not as much as they should be sometimes, but they are a little provocative, and they push um, things out of the area that most corporations would maybe like their businesses to go. So naturally, they're being brought to uh, higher courts, and the EPA is also fighting back to try to get it to go to courts that will rule in their favor. So there's a lot of drama and back and forth, it seems. Um, I believe what at the end of the article, what was it talking about? In it would be determined by next summer. Did it say?
Yeah, these court cases will probably be fully hashed out next summer.
Okay, so we will try to keep reading into this or looking at this
Yeah,
to see.
I'll for sure I'll be tracking these.
Yeah, we'll be tracking them for sure so that we can give more updates on them. But I think that's going to cover most of the news. Because Micah 6.8 is centered around environmental justice, I decided today that we could do a little bit of education, some quick facts, and a little look for some who may not be educated on the subject, as it's not really taught in school or common knowledge for that sake. A little bit of education about methane, which is a powerful greenhouse gas. It's actually the second largest contributor to climate change. Of course, carbon dioxide being the first one. Some stark differences being that methane actually traps more heat than carbon dioxide. And the reason it's not as big of a contributor is not only because it's not released as much, but its lifespan is only about 7 to 12 years. So it has a much shorter lifespan than carbon dioxide, which can persist for hundreds of years, if not thousands, I think sometimes. So it's a much shorter term issue, but however, it is more volatile. It has way more heat, traps way more heat. Um, Methane does originate from natural sources too. It originates from natural sources and human activity, with about 60% of its emissions, or the emissions of methane, being from human activity. The largest sources for us, the human production of it, is the agriculture industry, uh, fossil fuels, of course, and decomposition of landfill waste. And for the natural source, one of the largest contributors are the wetlands, typically found in the ice caps that the north and the southern. I think mostly the northern ones actually. Um, some things about methane is, and this is obviously the issue at hand. We would address that methane has doubled in concentration over the past 200 years in the atmosphere. So that's doubled, which is accounting for about 20 to 30% of all climate change since the Industrial Revolution. So it is a very, very large contributor, and it has certainly been, I guess, increased since it has been produced more since the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
I actually have two graphs that I want to show today to kind of highlight this. So I'm going to switch over to one right now. So this is 1980. So this has been the concentration of the atmosphere since 1980. You see it's gone from about 1650 parts per billion up to about 1900, which doesn't seem like, I mean, it does seem like a lot, but this other graph helps put it into perspective. Because this one is from the year like 1100. So this is like what even was happening in 1100? When what I don't even
What was happening in
I don't
1100?
remember. It was after the Roman, I don't know. Regardless, it look at it. So it starts off like it's roughly about the same. And then here is obviously, let's see, this is 1800, so the Industrial Revolution happens a little bit before that.
Mm.
So it looks like the late 1800s, whenever most other places started to really industrialize and expand, just shoots up. So that's from in this little area here is only 200 years, where it has gone up 1,000 parts per billion. That's crazy.
No sign of stoppage,
Yeah, and
by
it's
the
and it's
way.
going up. So I think I wanted to put those graphs out there just to really show how, um, I mean, I don't think this isn't such a rapid, like, look, this is not like incremental. This is very rapid. It is very, in the grand scheme of things, it is very, very quick. Um, and then let me go on to talk about and this is another thing that we are a little bit, we harp on here because it's important, methane's effects on health. So methane actually itself is not a massive contributor to health issues, if any. However, other pollutants that are often associated with methane are. Chemicals that are commonly burned with methane. So these compounds include benzene, arsenic, I don't know how to say that one, formaldehyde, lead, and mercury. And then, of course, the ones we also talk about a lot, fine and ultrafine particulate matter. The compounds mentioned increase your risk for, and this is the short-term risks that you could see immediately, skin rashes, headaches, fatigue for the short-term effects, and for longer-term effects, they can cause damage to your heart, liver, kidneys, and central nervous system. Most mentioned chemicals and chemicals produced with methane are known or at least suspected to be a carcinogen. And the particulate matter, especially PM 2.5, which is a very acutely dangerous one, if you are exposed to it, and you breathe it in, it can worsen respiratory issues. For example, people who already have asthma would be disproportionately affected by it. And it's also just for everyone else, they can allow you to experience even more severe symptoms to certain diseases such as COVID-19. So overall, not good. It's if you're
Yeah.
hanging around somewhere with methane, you are pretty much always living in a constant debuff where you are slowly breathing in poison. Not because of the methane. The methane does have catastrophic effects, but on a climate scale, not on a if I breathe it, I'll die scale.
Yeah, the medical stuff is associated.
It's typically associated
So,
with methane. It's not normally just like, oh, we're just chilling with methane here and we're not hurting nobody. I mean, methane is hurting people, but then it's also always associated with other types of chemicals.
mhm.
I have a video here from NASA. That's also where I got all this information from, showing kind of giving a little bit more information on methane, and it also looks cool because NASA always makes cool videos, so I wanted to play it. All right, here I'm going to play it.
This year, NASA released a new visualization modeling the sources and transport of methane across our globe. With this new visualization, we can see how methane sources vary by location and season. In South America, the Amazon River basin and its adjacent wetlands flood seasonally. This creates an oxygen-deprived environment that is a significant source of methane. In the last 200 years, methane concentrations have more than doubled, mainly due to human activities. Europe is the only region to show a decrease in methane emissions over the last 20 years. In India and Southeast Asia, rice cultivation and livestock are two of the driving sources of methane. In China, economic expansion is driving a high demand for fossil fuels, resulting in an increase in methane emissions. This is a stark difference to the Arctic, where natural sources, such as natural wetlands and potentially thawing permafrost, account for more than 70% of the region's methane emissions. Taking a step back, we could see that methane has vastly different sources around the globe. By getting a better sense of the story of methane, scientists and policymakers can better understand the sources of methane emissions and work to reduce this greenhouse gas.
Yeah, I just thought it was a nice little little
Yeah.
bit of information there. And yeah, it's pretty much what we're saying here, and it seems to be clear that it is the result of human activity. Although there are natural causes, the giant spike is because of human activity.
Mhm. But
Um,
the little clip, it also is a good visual reminder that the problems that we're facing with emissions of any kind that result in climate change is it's like a global issue. It's not something that we can point to one particular reason and put that as the end all be all. Like I know personally, a lot of people don't really feel compelled to do any sort of emission reduction action in the U.S. because they believe that it's all going to be still coming out of other nations. So why should we bother? But if it's a global issue, it's going to take global action. Every single nation will have to participate in these efforts to see any meaningful change.
yeah, no, certainly. And then also we're on that exact, and that is an argument that I hear frequently. But also, I think we should remember the amount of greenhouse gases that comes from the United States. We are a majority contributor by like a lot. I think China is like, is it more than us? I think it is more than us now.
I think it's a third of the.
It's
It could be. I
we
think it's China and India
Yeah, China, India, and
combined
us.
do one third, something like that.
Um, but I think that no, it is certainly a global effort, and any amount of emission reduction will be appreciated. I'd said in the video that Europe had went down, so I guess they're on board. But I also don't. They don't have. I don't think they have as big of an industry of it there either, though. I think they get theirs
Well,
imported.
yeah, they also don't have nearly as much of a need for
Yeah,
rapid use of stuff that emits methane, like industrializing nations.
yeah. No, regardless, that is our little infographic, or it wasn't a graphic, our little info spiel about methane. We are going to be doing more about methane because we are doing a methane grant actually at Micah 68, so we're going to be chatting about it a little bit more, probably on the show as well, and probably doing like some interviews and stuff with maybe some people around some environmentally friendly businesses as well. But I think that about wraps it up for today on the Mission 6A broadcast. Remember that we aren't doing this live, so if you do have any feedback or any want to correct us on anything, which is also important, or if you want to have us cover something specifically that you think we need to be touching on, the comments are open. And I also have a personal Instagram. That's just my name, Brady Labe. You can always DM me, and we'll get you coverage of whatever you'd like to hear. But other than that, I think we're going to sign off for today, and I appreciate everyone for listening. Is there anything else you want to say, Jackson?
Uh, Not really.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of contacting, just do it through Brady. I don't really use any social medias or anything like that.
yeah. I'll get to you. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think we'll see y'all Friday. Thanks for listening, and goodbye.
Bye.